Okay, welcome to Fireside Chat. Sorry, I gotta wear this mask up here. It's not Halloween, but it is because we gotta wear a mask, right? Okay. But at least we have an in-person coupled with on HHTV, right? We're streaming live, right? Okay, that's good. So it is good to have everyone here. We have a ton of stuff to cover. When I printed out the slides, this is the slide deck. I had to wheel that in with a hand cart. It's heavy. Well, first I want to say, and probably will say at every meeting that we have for the foreseeable future, that it's a hard time. It's a hard time. And there is no denying that there is a lot of loss behind the decision to build a West Tower. It affects a lot of people's lives, directly and indirectly. People who lose the home that they love and have to move and go through those transitions, and those who lose a view that they thought they would have forever. And that we can't deny that that exists. And there have been lots of letters, and there have been lots of personal meetings, and there's been a lot of hard language. And it's my job to listen to that and to hear that, to understand that, to respond to that, as well as others. And some of the language is tough language. It's really hard to hear things about betrayal, whether it's a process that has been felt that causes betrayal, or it is a decision that causes the feeling of betrayal. But it is a reflection of how people really feel. And it is not easy, and it's not fun for anyone. My hope is that people know and understand that by definition, process is not an event, right? There will be a lot of conversation, not necessarily revisiting a decision, but understanding how people feel about things, how things need to be in order to have it feel right. And that begins next week. We will have the beginning of 75 meetings, okay? 75 individual resident meetings. Those meetings, and I'll put out a thing to everybody in the community today that walks through the process. In those meetings, there's a part of it where we talk about how people are impacted and their fears and their concerns and the anxiety, the uncertainty. I would love to say, hey, the answer is X, let's get around the answer. The answer evolves over time through process. So 75 meetings, I don't know a community that would have 10, let alone 75. Christy and I were at the Murano last week and got a 3-hour tour of the Murano and lunch and everything, and saw apartments and whatever. And we were talking about our decision, and we said we were having all these meetings, and they just like laughed. They wouldn't have one meeting. We're gonna have 75 meetings. And people deserve those meetings. They deserve a one-on-one meeting. Sometimes people say, well, let's get in a big group and hash it all out. I wanna look in the eyes of every single person that I'm able to participate in the meetings, and I hope we'll be able to participate in most, and see what that anxiety looks like, so that we can properly reflect a choice of solutions that best serves the community and best serves the individual. And my hope is also that over time, that you experience a process that even if you don't like the decision, that you will see that there was a process that was fair, that was reasonable, and led to the best possible outcomes. It's not a guarantee, but that is where our effort will be focused. The other thing that I hope that people will consider in their evaluation of things is to look at both Horizon House as well as your own personal interests. It's hard to look past our personal interests because we want what we want and we need what we need. But we also talk about Horizon House as an entity that survives in perpetuity, and that we make decisions for ourselves and also for generations that will come ahead of us. Not unlike what people have done in the past. They've made decisions for which we are the beneficiaries of. It is hard to let go of that, but it is also a test of conviction of how do people really feel about Horizon House? Do we feel about Horizon House only in the context of our own interest, however challenging that might be? Or is there a broader feeling about an entity that serves us in a way that we want to see it go on beyond us? I hope people can get to that place. It's not a guarantee, but I hope they can get to it. Some people have brought up the issue that hey, you know, this hit me with a ton of bricks, and we should have known earlier, or why did we know so early? Or tell me more details, or I don't really understand why. So one way we can get to understanding the why, the what, and the how is for everybody to have access to the entire strategic plan. So we'll post that in the library, and it's, I don't know, 10 pages long, 12 pages, something like that. It's a lot of detail. And I would encourage people to go and read the strategic plan because it talks about the alternatives that were rejected, as well as the reason why we do what we do, that we'll keep talking about. But it's helpful to read it so you can understand what the Board of Trustees dealt with as they work through various solutions. Then at our quarterly meetings, starting in March, because we do them every quarter, the first quarter meetings, we'll dedicate those meetings to conversation about what you read and what those questions are, and try to answer them. We want everyone to be informed, and sometimes the best information is not what your neighbor tells your neighbor tells your neighbor tells your neighbor tells your neighbor, that we're really going to Mars and we're building a colony there. We're not. No matter what you've heard, we're not doing that. So maybe if you have a chance to read that and understand that, and then ask the questions, it will inform you. It may not change how you feel, but at least it will inform you as to how we got here and why we got here. So my hope is that we will, through process, through the course of the next many months, through meetings, through memos, through conversation, we will collectively arrive at a different place than we might be right here today. And we will demonstrate in that process a little bit about who we are. This is not, when I went to Murano, they are selling a lifestyle. They don't use the word community. There is no obligation in a lifestyle, none. There is mutual responsibility in community. And hopefully we'll have a chance to coalesce around the mutual responsibility, notwithstanding the personal impact it has, that we must deal with and we must be sensitive to, and we must have workable solutions for. So that's that for now. We have a lot of other important stuff to cover, and I want to shift it over to Charlene and Ruth Ann to talk about philanthropy.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Ruth Ann Ford. I work with Charlene in the philanthropy department. She's right back there. I am the main point person for GEM grants, but please talk to Charlene if ever I'm not in the office. GEM grants are projects that enrich the lives of residents or staff at Horizon House and fall outside of the normal operating budget. They are funded by Partners in Caring. Grants can be as little as $100 or as much as $10,000. And there's 2 grant cycles, spring and fall. Some recent examples of GEM grants are sewing chairs for the sewing room, supplies for Memory Cafe. GEM grants can be physical items, but they can also be experiences, such as the dance performance by Brian Carr, or a couple of years ago, we had a virtual reality experience. So just when you're thinking about writing a GEM grant, you can also think about a type of experience that you think that the residents would like. $25,000 is available for each grant cycle, and we often do not come close to that total, so we really encourage folks to get in your applications. Is there anyone written a GEM application in the room? Could you raise your hand? Yeah, there are lots, and it's not hard. It's easy, right? It's only 3 pages. It's a pretty easy process, and we have a couple of GEM group members in the audience too. So some upcoming dates are GEM Awareness Week, and you will see pink bows on some past applications. And we have a grant writing workshop, and our spring deadline is March 17th. So please come see me about your ideas. Sometimes GEM grant ideas are really a general operating expense or a renovation expense. And having a strong Resident and staff partnership on your application is important. So special thanks to our GEM committee who vote on the grants: Les Cox, Margaret King, Marjorie Purdue, Carol Ottenberg, and Joan Signer. So thank you very much. I will introduce Jeff now.
Oh, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, thanks for being here. Good to see so many people out. I feel like each month we're getting a few more people down here, so it's great seeing everybody here. I just want to start off with a few pictures from our last event, which was Valentine's Day, which was a really good night. You can see that beautiful ice sculpture there that we finally got to unveil. As we talked about last time, that was supposed to be part of our New Year's Eve dinner, but we were lucky enough that the folks at Creative Ice were able to store that, keep it wrapped up in their freezer for a couple months, and we were able to unleash that on Valentine's Day. Chef and the team did a great job loading that up with a bunch of crab and lobster and shrimp and salmon and all that good stuff. And we've received so many good feedback from all of you that attended that night and had a really good time. So we're happy to do that, and maybe we'll see something like that again in the future. You never know. Next, I just want to talk a little bit about the new menu design. There we go. It's been out for a couple weeks, and we've gotten a lot of really good feedback from it. I know not everybody has been completely happy with it, switching kind of the format of it, but we just ask, give it some time, let it sink in, and get used to it. And I think you'll find that it works really well for you. We have made a couple tweaks to it the first few weeks as well. And one thing you'll see on the next menu that comes out today is we've kind of removed the brunch section and incorporated those meals into the actual day. So when you look at the Sunday day, it's going to have the brunch menu on it. And when you look at the Saturday page too, it'll have the brunch menu on it. So a couple little tweaks like that. And we're always open to feedback. If anyone has suggestions or comments about it, please direct those to me or Barry, and we will look at that. And then finally, just wanted to talk a little bit about staffing update. As you know, we're still in the same pretty much predicament we've been in. We did recently hire a new server. She should be getting going in the next week or two. The processes of going through the hiring process takes a little bit of time with delays and staffing shortages other places as well. So that impacts just getting people in here. But hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have her in. The only issue with that is she's just replacing a server that left about a month ago that was full-time. So, we're just kind of treading water there. We're still looking to hire cooks, servers, and diet aides. We have really good incentives going for that we've aligned with Horizon House. So, full-time employee, if they work for a whole year, they can get a $2,500 bonus for coming on. There's also referral bonuses for in-house people that are referring people, and that's helped a little bit. The new girl we're hiring is a referral from another server. So the other day I was in Oliver's office, and he had an old schedule posted, and I found it very interesting. I looked at it, and on that schedule we had 14 servers, 7 of which were full-time. Currently I have 6 servers, and 2 of them are full-time. So that kind of just shows where we're at in that terms. I do have the girl we did hire is full-time, which is nice. And we're also down a couple diet aides upstairs. Thankfully, we have Rose in house, and she has been picking up a lot of the slack up there. So she's doing double duty, working bistro and as a diet upstairs. So definitely, if you see her, thank her for all her hard work, because she's putting in a lot of hours right now. But hopefully we can get past that soon, and we can get some staff up. And we really want to get some sit-down dinners going at some point. So we're really trying to get enough cooks and staff to maybe just find one day that we can do that moving forward. So hopefully look for that in the next couple months. But other than that, that's all I have. And I think we're up on Brian next to talk about some elevators. Thank you.
Some of the incentives also that his crew has is our appreciative residents that are so appreciative of the great work that they do. And boy, I go through that dining in the kitchen, and Barry and Jeff and Chef Steve have such a great crew right now. And so I go through and thank them. So Jeff, thanks for the great crew that you guys have. They're doing a spectacular job, and there's not very many of them that are doing the lifting. So we really, really appreciate them. I'm going to talk about elevators and some updates today. And some of us maybe are cat people, some are dog people, and can maybe relate to what we see on the screen is, but one of the things about our elevators is we have a company that we work with, and I'm going to go through a couple of steps that we've been taking over the last several months. Typically, we don't really talk to the residents about relationships we have with our contractors or talk about some of those things, but we're going to have that conversation a little bit today to show you behind the curtain and talk about that, just so that you're aware, because you may not see and know of some of these steps that we've been taking. So several months ago, back in November, we had a meeting with our current elevator company, and we had some challenges with some of our elevators. And so Mike and Christy and Sean and I and Brian Byers, we met with our sales rep and a technician back in November and told them that, we're not real pleased with the way some of the elevators continue to have challenges with us. And we wanted to put them on notice that we're disappointed. And so time went on through the first of the year, and we continue to have challenges with our elevators. And once we had a lot of challenges, as our North Tower residents know, with elevator number 11. So in January, we brought in a third-party vendor that we talked to come and take a fresh perspective at what they see from what's going on with us, because we were having challenges. Lacey, can you go to the next slide? So one of the things is with the elevators is that there are all the electronic components, very complicated with all of the buttons and the cables that run up and down the elevator shaft that go to. Next is the control board, which is a computer component that's up in the elevator penthouse that all of these wires come to, and the computers are running. And then the next image shows all of the mechanical aspects associated with an elevator, with the cable and the belts and the rollers and the counterweights and the cab and the buttons and all of the things that are associated with the elevator. It's extremely complicated. But at the end of the day, do we really care? We want to push the button. We want the elevator to arrive. We want to go to our destination, and we want to move on, right? I get to my car. I want to put the key in the ignition, turn the key, and I want to go to wherever I want to go. Same thing with this. However, it is very complicated, and those are some of the aspects that are reality. Some of us are kind of interested in those complexities, but by the end of the day, we want it to work. So, so this first bullet, as I mentioned, that we met in November to share and remind our expectations. And we toured the mechanical spaces in late January with a third party. Our staff are not going or allowed to go inside the elevator mechanical spaces. You have to be a technician to go in there. And so we, with this other company, we toured, Sean and I, to all of our 11 elevator spaces and took a peek at what was going on and heard some perspective from them. And then within 2 days, we had a meeting, Christy, Sean, and I, and Brian, with the current vendor owner, and shared what we saw, and shared that our expectations are that our community, everybody here, all of us, want functioning elevators without these unplanned interruptions. And so we shared the summary, we shared some images, and we had a conversation with this company that things need to be fixed. Things need to be right for us, for our community. And so we're providing them some time to work on this list of things that we found. And so elevator 11, for those in the North Tower, are aware that it has been down for a period of time, and they are currently they put in new bearings, which is part of the mechanical piece. They actually put in a new travel cable, which is a cable that travels up and down the shaft, has all the wires going through the center of it. That just arrived and should be, we anticipate, installed by Monday. And through that process, because of the current vendor taking deeper look at everything, we also discovered that through that the belts that are running the cab up and down, those need to be replaced. So elevator 11 will unfortunately still be down probably for a couple more weeks as all of this work gets completed. The reality that we hope and that we expect is that it's not just going to stop on us unannounced or be uncomfortable for us writing it. They're planned repairs that we're working on. So through all of this analysis, our current vendor flew in a specialist from out of state to look at it with them as well. And we have had elevator vendors here every single day since Christy, Sean, and Brian and I met with the owner and the regional manager. There have been up to 6 elevator techs here on certain days. Today, I think there are 4 here, and they're working on a variety of the other elevators, not just elevator 11. And so the important thing is that this is going to get better. However, during the work, there will be intermittent interruptions as things are getting fixed and repaired, yet we anticipate it all being on a planned timeline. We can't have a crystal ball and know for sure when an elevator may have an issue for us, yet we are behind the scenes working on this very closely with our current vendor. And the current vendor may or may not survive with our business. Again, we usually don't talk to our residents about that, but this is a pretty high profile. You all count on the elevators to commute throughout the community. So there are larger projects that are going to come out of this. There are going to be some capital projects that we call them that will be discovered where we're going to have some planned outages. So the anticipation is that we get weekly reports and we understand when those would be so that we can communicate when those are down. We hope that this is helpful information on many levels. No pun. Was that a pun? I tried to pun that it was uplifting and that the news wasn't too, I'm not pushing your buttons on these ones, but so there's a lot going on behind the scenes. It's very important for us. All my notes on the elevators are in here, but I didn't go over them all. So, we want you to know that we are working hard on it. I apologize, 11's going to continue to be down, and 10 needs to have some work done after 11. So the time between 11 coming back up and 10 going down to replace bearings, we want to make sure 11's fully functional first. So again, we apologize, yet we want you to know we are paying attention to this. It's front and center. It's in our sights. So I can, at the end of this busy meeting, answer questions if need be. And Eli is going to talk to us about some exciting things that are coming up for us.
Hello, so let's talk master planning. There's about 4 projects that everyone I think would find interesting. First is the one that's already been underway for a while, the Sky Lounge. Actually, it's not the Sky Lounge, it's the exterior wall assemblies up on the Sky Lounge level. Experienced lots of delays. The good news is that any unforeseen, there are no more opportunities for unforeseen conditions. So yes. So the rest of the schedule is now very predictable. However, we predict that that the Sky Lounge will remain offline until through May. So, but again, the good news is that it's very unlikely for us to discover any reason for it to be take longer than that. So the next project, though, is Anderson Hall refresh. We're expecting Anderson Hall to go offline at the beginning of April. Initially, we didn't want to start this until the Sky Lounge finished, so that we would have that extra venue for events. But unfortunately, we need to really get Anderson Hall started so that we don't run into the holidays. So we'll start Anderson Hall refresh in April, which will mean I think about a 45 to 60-day overlap in which we have both the Sky Lounge and Anderson Hall offline. So for people who have events scheduled, so for people who do have committees who have events scheduled during that time slot, Brian Holtz, for instance, he is working on a transitioning program. He's already working with concierge to have those events rescheduled. So please don't, bombard, Hunter with having your event scheduled, and you could probably contact Brian directly.
Risa and I are working.
Okay, Risa and Brian are currently working on it. We also have some small group sessions to answer resident questions regarding Anderson Hall. We've already had 2 this week. We have a 3rd one this afternoon. We also have, for people who are unaware, there's design posters on the other side of the library, but on the Myrtle Edwards side of the library. So if anybody wants to look at those design posters and have comments, there's a comment box there, and you can reach out to me that way. Let's see. The next big project that we have is finally, after, gosh, how long has it been? 3 years since we were first exploring solutions to the Central Tower's radiant heat issue. We finally have that solution, and we expect to start this project in May. Okay, and the expectation has always been to do the corridors, the Central and East Tower corridors at the same time of the radiant heat solution, because there'll be so much disruption, might as well, take care of all of it at once. So that's expected in May. We are already refurbishing the laundry rooms and the trash rooms. Sorry, not the trash rooms. Is Bonnie here? It is the waste and recycle room. Sorry, waste and recycle room and the laundry rooms. We've already refurbished floor 5 and I believe floors 10, 16, and 19. Those should be completed, I think, as of today. So I'm interested to go up there and see what the result is. And then starting Monday, we will be working on floors 7, 12, and 17. Hopefully all of the waste and recycle rooms and the laundry rooms will be completed this summer. So that's exciting. And let's see, the corridor work itself will begin in July. You'll notice some disruption in the corridors before then, because there's a lot of backbone work related to the electrical service that we need to upgrade. And I already mentioned the apartment heating. We'll go into each resident's apartment. The scope of this project has changed significantly. Initially, the scope would be so intrusive, we would have needed to move all the residents out of the building. That's no longer the case. All right, so this is good. So as intrusive as this work may seem, it is far better than what it started off as. Instead, what we'll do is we'll go into residents' apartments once the weather starts getting warmer and replace the pneumatic control valves and the pneumatic thermostats. And this will expect to give Central Tower residents much better control over their heating system, finally. Yes. Thank you. And then lastly, I don't think I have a slide for this, but West Tower, Mike mentioned earlier that we will have design updates in the springtime. And when that happens, you can expect there to be posters, again, in that same hallway with opportunity to provide comments for that. And we're working with, resident focus groups to help guide that, that design process. I mean, to help participate in the design process.
Who's the design consist of for the West Wing?
What does the design consist of in general for the West Tower?
Oh,
So it'll consist of there not being a West Wing and there instead being a West Tower. There are three major things that we want to preserve. Obviously, the Monday market, make it bigger and better than ever. Something that can really, something that really embellishes its current use. And then also, obviously, we've got garden terraces and we also want to, this is our opportunity to really improve upon the security of how our building tows the, Freeway Park. So those are three of the many design considerations.
and will there be the useful connection from the,
Yeah.
will there still be a connection from the main building to the Freeway Park?
The question is will there be will we maintain accessibility into Freeway Park directly from the west?
From the E level?
Yes. The quick answer is yes.
Okay.
And that is, like I said, that's going to be one of the major design features is how do we create that accessibility and make it as safe as possible, make it feel as safe as possible. All right, we're not supposed to do the question and answers right now, are we?
No.
That's okay. All right, I think that's it. Elizabeth Hoover, I believe, is next.
Won't take long. Just in case, and as a reminder, if you haven't heard this, the Residence Council Vice President for Programs, May Gerstel, stand up, May, so they know who you are, has distributed to all the residents the council's program booklet for the coming fiscal year beginning in April. And she's decided, or she has included sign-up sheets, one for each person in a household, for you to check off the committees and activities in which you want to participate this year. And these choices must be turned in by this next Monday, the 28th. There's a black ballot box in the mailroom and another at the front desk for this purpose. So no one is too new to get into a group or join a group. So get involved, everybody. And if you have been involved in the past, be sure to sign up again. I quote from one of our residents, everything is built with small parts, working together to create a working whole, right? The council provides that framework for our resident-driven community. And then another little quick announcement. At the end of March, Cammie Elbow and Susan Barish, the current volunteer co-directors of our beloved Monday Market, will be retiring, and we will be announcing a change in leadership with the very capable Jennifer Stucker and Barbara McHarg as they assume co-directorship in April. So watch for more announcements about what's going to happen around that issue. So Valerie will now introduce our new resident.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It is my pleasure to introduce some of our newest residents. Most could not be here today. First up, Edgar Wood. Edgar was born in Wallace, Idaho. He attended Reed College, Yale, and the University of Pennsylvania. Ed enjoys cooking and reading and is a member of the Washington Athletic Club and the College Club. Welcome to Horizon House, Ed. Judy is with us today. Judy, if you don't mind waving. Thank you. Judy was born in Detroit. She attended the University of Michigan, Wayne University, and Pratt Fine Arts Center, and worked in graphics design and printmaking. Her interests include all things art-related, music, and the ukulele. Judy is a member of Seattle Print Arts, the Arboretum Foundation, and Seattle Art Museum. Welcome to Horizon House, Judy. And I think you've already joined the ukulele group, haven't you? You've already joined the Horizon House ukulele group, right? Yep. not unpacked and already joined. Ms. Ronnie Budge. Ronnie was born in New York City. She received her BA from Barnard College and MLS from the University of Michigan and worked as a library director. Ronnie's very interested in gardening and is a member of the Jackson County Master Gardener Association and AAWU. Welcome to Horizon House, Ronnie. And John Shayoff. John is with us today, if you don't, thank you. John was born in Everett and worked as a manager for the Washington State Department of Transportation and volunteers at the Lifelong AIDS Alliance. He and his partner, Robert Wilpus, were together for 48 years and married in 2014. John enjoys reading and is a member of the ACLU, Southern Poverty Law Center, and the Seattle Art Museum. Welcome to Horizon House, John. And Ellen Leggett. Ellen was born in Ottawa, Canada, and has lived in Sweden, England, Australia, and Singapore, as well as several places in the US, including Honolulu, Hawaii, where she attended high school. She earned her BA, MA, and Doctor of Education and worked as a teacher and counselor. Welcome to Horizon House, Ellen. In the interest of time, we've cut these introductions down, but they're all posted in their entirety on HH Connect, so we encourage you to learn more about your new neighbors. And it's my pleasure to introduce Byron to welcome new staff.
Hi guys, so I get the pleasure of introducing all of our new faces of Horizon House, and I don't have any bad news for you. I'm proud to introduce Celerina Powell to our HR team. She started a few weeks ago. Happy to have her, she's over there. And then we have Brianna Dressel. She also started this week as our Life Enrichment Associate on our Life Enrichment team. If you see her, say hello. And then we have Emanuel Bernardo. She will be joining our team as an elder care LPN. And then Michael, where is he at? Back there. I believe he might have been introduced, but I'm reintroducing him again because he's a great team member to our IT department. He started with us 2 months ago as a service desk technician, excuse me. So, hi, Michael. And then we have Emanuel Bernardo, who joined us about a month and a half ago on our engineering team, so senior engineer. Welcome, Emanuel. And then we have Ronald Alexion, also joining our team as an engineer. So welcome, Ronald. If you see him, give him a hug. No, I'm just kidding. 6 feet, guys. But that's all I have. We will have some new faces joining us as well. The HR team is working with our recruiters to really help support our team get staffed up. So you'll see over the next month and a half a lot more new faces. So be prepared to see some new team members. Thank you. Next up, we have Lori.
Good morning. I wanted to start off briefly with some COVID-related updates. All good news, no new cases to report. I'm really ecstatic to be able to share that. So we are going to put out a communication on Monday, and we have some teams gearing up to be able to invite your guests and visitors back to the terrace dining room and bistro beginning next Wednesday. Yes, welcome news next Wednesday for dinner. On Sunday night, the food services team is going to be setting up to reopen the coffee bar and the fireside lounge on Monday morning. Yeah. And then we will also be reopening catering services. So certainly that means you will be able to have food and beverage and meetings. However, we are still under state mandate for mask use. So please remember that when those services come back into play, we will still all be required to wear a mask unless actively eating or drinking. So that will still be in place The other thing I want to just reiterate again is we're hearing in the media that CDC is anticipating talking more very soon, as early as next week, about the mask mandate. Be mindful again, as we've shared in the past, that when CDC makes announcements, it takes time for those to trickle into the state levels, and then at the state level, decisions are made, as well as in some county levels. So Governor Inslee's already announced that the indoor mask mandate will lift March 21st. However, King County Public Health has indicated they may not be lifting that mask mandate yet for the county. King County is continuing to monitor very closely the hospital capacity, and they are also recognizing that there is a high degree of burnout amongst healthcare providers. So they are watching closely what that bandwidth is going to be as to when that indoor mask mandate will lift for the county. All healthcare settings, including ours, are carved out from those indoor mask mandates. So we don't know yet what the Department of Health is going to render for settings like this. So stay tuned. We'll be continuing to monitor that. And of course, the Virus Task Force will announce updates as they are made available to us. I want to really put out a plea for your help to ensure when you have guests and visitors coming to please remind them not to come if they've had an exposure to someone with active COVID within the previous 10 days, if they are not feeling well themselves, even the tickle in the throat. Those were some of the symptoms some of you experienced with the recent COVID cases we had, thinking it was allergies, just a tickle in the throat, and it ended up being COVID. So please do ask your visitors not to come if they are not feeling well, so we can continue to protect this community and not have to roll back that guidance if we did develop more cases. Okay, the clinic. So I've gotten beaten up already. It's a legitimate injury. I know there's been some concern, and so wanted to take this opportunity to just share some history, share where we are at, and next steps. Some of this is duplication for those of you who came to the small resident discussions earlier in the month where I shared some of this information, but nonetheless, it's good to hear it again. So as you know, a few weeks ago, I let you all know by way of the written communication and in the small group discussions that Eve Nyman, our clinic nurse, has submitted her resignation. Her supervisor is Amy Nguyen, our clinic manager, who of course you will know is out on maternity leave. She will be coming back sometime in April. We'll look forward to having her back after the birth of her third child, the first baby girl. And so whenever there is staff turnover, it is always an opportunity for us to reevaluate what is the physician offer, what are the outcomes that we're after, and what makes sense going forward. In terms of some history of staffing in the clinic, for those of you who have been here for a few years, you'll remember that we used to have a doctor in the clinic. So some of you may have remembered Dr. Lee Burnside. Dr. Burnside had been with us for a while, and over time, there had arrived a place where he was no longer receiving enough business from the residents. And so there was not enough volume for him to warrant having two separate practices here and at Virginia Mason. So there came a time where he departed. It was Dr. Burnside's strong recommendation then that we not try to replace his physician because of the low use of the in-house physician. We also had at that time two part-time nurses, Eve, and some of you would remember Tamara Anderson. So when Tamara retired, we didn't have enough use to warrant replacing her position and continued on with Eve as a part-time nurse. You'll remember that we brought in nurse practitioners for a while, and the main impetus behind that was so that we would have the ability for you to access your insurance for the services being offered in the clinic. A clinic, in order to bill insurance, must have a physician or a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant. Those are the requirements for any clinic to be able to bill for services. And over the years, we had a few years of nurse practitioners. We did cycle through. Some of you will remember that we had several different nurse practitioners. And what commonly was occurring was they were leaving because there wasn't enough use for them. They wanted to be busier. They wanted to be able to leverage their skill sets and their talents to serve residents. And what we consistently heard and what the nurse practitioners heard was, because all of you have established primary care providers somewhere, usually on the Hill, through Virginia Mason, Polyclinic, Swedish, a few I know at the University of Washington, we could not recruit for more nurse practitioners because of low use and demand. When the last nurse practitioner departed in late 2018, that therefore left us with the inability to bill any insurances for the few clinic services. So it became strictly a private pay model. We saw in terms of utilization decline further because a lot of you don't want to pay privately, which is understandable. And instead to leverage your insurance benefits at your places of primary care provision. So those have been some of the history of continued decline from a staffing perspective and why we didn't replace those staff members as they turned over. When Eve gave her notice and wanted to move on to get something more professional for herself, she's going to be going, as many of you know, to Virginia Mason, to the wound care clinic. She's excited to be working towards a certification in wound care. And so when we met to talk about what is the current use of the clinic in terms of making some decisions, what made sense going forward, what I learned in working with Eve is that she's been serving on a regular basis 15 residents, 15 out of 499. And most of those services were around medication management, a couple, 2 residents with injections, one once a month, one every other week. The medication management program was serving residents on a weekly basis, once a week, where primarily private caregivers were coming down to collect the medications. And then we had a couple of other residents on service for 5, I should say, for Coumadin management. We've seen utilization of the Coumadin management services decline because newer medications are available to where the finger sticks are no longer a requirement. So we've seen more residents switch over to the newer medications through their primary care providers to avoid having to go and get the finger sticks on a routine basis. So that's led to some more erosion of that service. And then of course, there are a few of you who come in periodically for single episode needs, a skin rash perhaps, maybe some bandage changes. So that has been a periodic need. It's been slow in the clinic. And I had spoken to Eve because we need nursing support and assisted living. And so I had spoken to Eve about getting her cross-trained to, when the clinic is slow, to bring her up to assisted living on occasion to help with some medication support up there. And Eve was very clear that that was not of interest to her, and I respected that. And a short while later, she gave her resignation. So I do want to be clear. I understand there's a rumor that Eve was ousted, and that is absolutely not the case. She was not ousted. We were talking about leveraging her skill set and talents sometimes in assisted living during the slow times in the clinic. So with that, in addition to the labor market, it is a very, very difficult labor market, especially for nurses. And even if you were using the clinic more and we had a lot more utilization, it was important for me and Eve to put other alternatives in place, because otherwise this position could potentially be vacant for months, as is commonly occurring in many healthcare settings. And so it was important, regardless of which way we chose to go with the clinic, it was important to identify immediately with a 2-week notice from Eve, which is standard, to identify alternative solutions for those of you, for the few of you using some services. I mentioned earlier that the key service being utilized of the 15 is medication management. Kelly Ross, a pharmacy partner and provider, they offer medication management as well, and at a lower cost than what the clinic charged. They offer a weekly program as well as a monthly program. They deliver medications to the front desk. So for the private caregivers who have been collecting them from the clinic, the only change is they collect the medicine instead from the reception center. So I have put together that will be available in your cubby boxes sometime later today, a front and back side health services or healthcare services document that outlines all of the available services to you. One being the medication management program. Again, we only had 8 using that program, so I know it's not a big need, but it's important for you to be aware it is a service that is available at any time, should any of you decide at a later time that that would be a benefit for you. So all of that information is on here. The other key piece I want to emphasize is what I've learned over the last couple of weeks. Some of you have come to meet with me or email me. Some have confused and thought the nurse access for medical emergencies was the clinic, and that's actually not the case. You continue to have access, which is something that is not available in most of the communities. You have access to a nurse 24/7 for medical emergencies. Well, if you have a situation where you're not feeling well, but it's not a 911 situation, call reception to have for the nurse dispatched to your apartment, push your pendant, or pull your cord in the bathroom. Those are all vehicles to summon the nurse who comes from assisted living. That's been in place for a number of years and is continuing to be in place for you today. I want to use this opportunity to remind you to make sure you have your vial of life kits updated, your emergency contact in there, your hospital preference. So whether our nurses respond or 911 responds, we want to look for that and be able to honor your wishes, especially around your hospital preference, because I know that's important where all of your medical records are. Ancillary providers, some have thought that not having E here meant the end of ancillary providers. Ancillary means our audiology provider, our dentist, hygienist, our podiatrist, massage therapies. They have always operated independently of the clinic, so those providers continue to be here. And you'll continue making your appointments through concierge. And those services will continue to be available down on B1. So that has not changed. I also want to highlight as well, some of you have raised a question or concern about what's going to happen to the vaccine clinics. Those also will continue. We will coordinate for Bartels to come out and do influenza clinics as we've done for years. Again, that doesn't require a clinic nurse to organize that. And so that is something we're going to continue offering as long as Bartels or another pharmacy will continue offering that service on site here at Horizon House. And certainly as we learn more what the public health recommendations will be around future COVID boosters, our first go-to will certainly naturally be Virginia Mason. And if they can't do it or aren't equipped to do it, we'll certainly look at other resources to see if we can bring an on-site pharmacy provider to provide any of those future types of clinics. Some other alternative solutions is these services have always been in place, but it's a good time to remind you that home health nursing is another option. So for those of you who may have a wound, especially if it's a new acute wound, if you are new as an oxygen user, another example is newly diagnosed diabetes, or you've come back from the hospital and need some nursing support, those services can be available through home health nursing. That is a service that is a skilled service, so it does require a physician's order or primary care provider order. A nurse would come into your home to provide some short-term nursing support, wound assessment, for example, bandage changes in between the assessments, as well as education, depending on the new injury or a new condition. So that is an option. Home care, of which we use a lot of here, as many of you know. Many home care agencies have what's called nurse delegation. So they contract with an RN to come in and do an assessment and determine if a condition, bandage changing, for example, medication assistance, if those things can be delegated to a home care aide, then the nurse is tasked under state guidelines to train the home care aide to provide that service. And then the nurse delegator comes at regular intervals to check in on the process, the wound, for example, the condition, and then modifies training of the home care aide to continue providing that service. Home health agencies also do provide, in some cases, private duty nurses. So if you did not want to travel out to a wound care clinic, for example, home care agencies offer private duty nurses that you could pay to come into your apartment to provide that service. So there are solutions for services. What I recognize is not going to be readily available is you want to pop into the clinic for a quick check of a skin rash. And I'm sorry that that service won't be there. It's difficult to try to recruit in this labor market for such a low need that happens on great once in a while, especially when there are other resources that are available. The other phenomena that we have seen that has led to more decline is the emergence of telehealth during the pandemic. So there's been a lot more virtual access. I know that virtual does not serve all needs, but it is another point of access that some of you have shared with me has really grown your accessibility to your primary care provider offices. And there have also been expanded at some primary care clinics, expanded nurse call centers. I know Kaiser is an absolute model of that with having a large call center. Some of you have shared with me a preference to going that route because all of your health records are at your clinic to where whatever nurse you may speak to can have access to your medical records to respond accordingly. So I know that some of you have shared doing that. And we've also seen some further decline in the clinic because we heard feedback from many of you over a year ago of a need for more of a social worker type presence for independent living residents. And that led to the creation and the development of the Care Connector role that Erica Campbell fulfills. We tried to make the clinic be that because we were trying to get more use of the clinic. So we really tried to build case management and for the clinic to be that social service role, and it just was not resonating for a lot of residents who shared they didn't have a medical need, they didn't feel comfortable going to the clinic with some of those more emotional social support needs. And so we responded and created that position that Erica now fulfills. So all of those to say, in addition to just being mindful of stewardship of resources, it is difficult to justify moving forward with recruiting for a replacement of a nurse that was serving consistently 15 residents and then occasionally other residents. My hope is that with all these other resources that are available, and that again will be in your box with contact information for different home health agencies, home care, Kelly Ross, my hope is that you will see that you have access to services. It just won't be on a specific location or in a specific space. We'll see how things go and we'll reevaluate and go from there. I also want to share that one resident has shared, what about sharps? I put sharps in the clinic before. We are putting a sharps container. That is, in other words, for those of you who may need to do injections and want to have a place to deposit your syringes. We are putting a sharps container in the public restroom on the B1 level, right across from the gym. So it is a more private location for those of you who want to discreetly dispose of your sharps. I also know that there are pharmacies and there are certain medication vendors that provide sharp containers at no cost. So for those of you who would prefer to have that in the privacy of your home, there are options for free sharp containers, but we're making this available to you as well down in that restroom. One's been ordered and it should be installed in a couple of weeks, secured lock. Our EBS team will handle all the disposal once that's filled. That is what I have at this juncture. Again, I know this is not welcome news for some of you, and I'm sorry about that. I wish there was more use. I wish there was more use. I understand there is a petition circulating. I encourage you to please come see me. If you want to talk about some specific needs you have, I am happy to work with you as I have with some other residents and identifying the best path forward for you and your respective individual needs. Happy to be of support for that. And we will continue to follow, Eric and myself are tag teaming to follow our residents who are off-site receiving care. As an occupational therapist, I'm enjoying being able to get to leverage that hat as I've been doing some of that work to call the hospitals, call skilled nursing to understand how our few residents off-site are doing and to figure out the right discharge plan to welcome them back. And when Amy returns from her maternity leave in April, we'll reevaluate how we best leverage her skills and talents and how we can best support some of the needs that may emerge as we recognize what these next weeks bring and where we may have some gaps and how we can best fill that. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'm going to jump off, bring Mike up, but I'm going to hang out afterwards. If there are other questions, I will share that I am out of the office next week. But please don't hesitate to set up appointments after I'm back or email, and I would be happy to connect. Thank you so much.
Mr. Good News is back. I'm afraid that what's going to happen is this is going to be like Pavlov's dog. When you see me coming, you're going, my gosh, he's going to represent change. I think I'll go the other direction. Well, to some degree, that's kind of true, but hopefully some changes are good changes or ones that we will feel good about over time. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of our brand and mission and kind of vision updates, some things that we have been working on at a board level for the last year or so. So one of the things that we want to talk about, why update the brand? Brand elements become dated over time. And I'll show you a slide that will show you what our brand looks like over time. The brand that we have needs to resonate with our future residents as well as our current residents. That's the goal, to try to map to both. And senior living communities don't have like big advertising. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Starbucks, whatever, they don't change their brand or their logo because they have all sorts of advertising and communication written in print, and media. They keep reinforcing it, so they don't have to do it. We have to have a look and feel that is going to show that kind of progressive, forward-thinking organization. And not that the brand does everything, it plays a role in communicating who we are and who we want to be. And we want to say, hey, we're urban. We want to say we're a progressive organization. I think we're progressive in many respects. And we also want the authenticity of showing our own pictures of our own staff and residents. If you get the paper on Sunday, you'll see all these ads, and I've said it before, that you'll see these big, long one-pagers. And they're pictures of people that don't live in those communities, right? That's not how life really is. We feature our own folks, because we want people to know that this is a place where what you see is really what you get. So let's first start with the mission to kind of talk a little bit about that. So, we periodically, organizations review their mission and vision because you want to make sure that it's an accurate reflection of, what and who we are. We want it to be memorable so people actually know what it is and don't, kind of feel like they can't quite recall what that mission and vision is. And we wanted to make sure it's a good reflection of where we're going. And sometimes you have a great mission, but you kind of don't execute it that way because that's not really where you want to go. So we have done some work on this at our board level, and Alex Tibbetts played a big role in helping to kind of shape it, and we wanted to simplify things. So we're going to start with the mission and vision, and let's see the next slide. So our old mission was Horizon House is a dynamic retirement community dedicated to dignified aging, life fulfillment, and service to the broader community. That's not bad. That's good. It's long, and there are parts of it that don't really reflect kind of who we are and how we, spend our resources. And that is mostly in service to the broader community. We've had issues in the past where we've thought to do more in the broader community, and that's not something that has resonated with our residents. So it's not an area that we do that much in. We do some, but not that much. So we spent a lot of time talking about the mission, and we said, we need something that really kind of cuts to the chase of who and what we really are. and we landed on purposeful living in a diverse community. We want diversity. We want socioeconomic diversity. We have a lot of that. We have some political diversity, although it's a little maybe one-sided. We have diversity in ethnicity, but not as much as that we would like. We certainly have religious diversity, and people feel comfortable. We have gay and lesbian diversity, and we want that diversity. It's something the board has said that they want to make sure that we have a clear and present effort being made to continue with our diversity. It's who we are, and we want to just call that out. So our mission statement is it's purposeful living in a diverse community, and hopefully that resonates with people. It's very simple and hopefully memorable. On the vision, our vision was Horizon House is the model urban community of choice, recognized as the leader of creative aging. Not bad, not bad. A little bit on the long side. We kind of wanted to narrow it down to the essence of who we are, and we said that using the power of a resident-driven community to enhance well-being. That we believe that participation in committees, in leadership, involvement, whether it's things you like or don't like, you have a voice, that activity in and of itself is distinguishing us from everybody else that doesn't necessarily allow that or encourage that. So we're hoping that this is a better reflection of what our real vision is, which is people will live better, live longer, live healthier when they're actively engaged in purposeful living that we help enable here, and you as residents help enable among your peers. So that's where we are on mission and vision. Now let's kind of go on to brand identity. So brand identity is a bunch of different things. It's photos, it's colors, it's video, it's logo, it's copy, and there has to be consistency with our mission and vision. That's kind of the key elements. So I'm not going to read through all this, but we went through a formal process with a branding company that has done this for a number of organizations, and we spent time going through a pretty exhaustive process to understand how do we come up with something that reflects these things. And sometimes you have to make a little bit of a leap because you can see a logo and colors and say, well, gosh, how did that really tie into this? Well, this is where you rely on professionals to help you articulate that so that you can explain it a little bit. You'll see our new logo, and you might say, well, gosh, I don't know how it fits with all those things. Well, we use these branding type companies to help us understand what iteration of a logo best demonstrates that. And we think we landed on it, but you will be the judge. All right, so this is our competitive landscape. And just out of curiosity, do you notice any commonalities here? Some have identical colors, right? Some look a little more progressive than others. So I'm just curious, who thinks that Mirabella represents that's kind of a progressive, forward-looking logo? Show of hands, anybody? Kind of a little bit there? Murano? I'm going to talk a little bit about Murano in a second, only because Christy and I visited there. Skyline? A little bit more progressive. Bayview? Not so much. Park Shore? That doesn't look like it. Looks like a hair salon to me. Aegis Living? I don't know. It doesn't really kind of like get me going. Hearthstone? I think that's an excellent tombstone. But I don't know if that's what we want to be communicating. So let's not go there. University House? I think that looks like a college. Okay. Emerald Heights? I don't know. That reminds me of like Stanford when they went to the tree from the cardinal. Don't fear the tree. I don't know that says anything progressive. It says maybe that they are in a suburban community and they're out in the woods. That's okay. And then there's Horizon House. Okay, and that has been our logo for some time. I think those other colors kind of represent a different direction than where our logo has been. Now let's look at what our history has been. 61 all the way through to what we'll show in 2001 and 2010 and 2022. So what happens as we go through this process is that the logo that is the one you have for the audience that is in your community at the time, everyone says, well, I like that logo. I came in here because of that logo. So I'm guessing that the people in 1982 weren't crazy about moving away from what was in 1961 because they might have joined in 61 and they might have liked that logo. Or that, you know, fast forwarding and saying, well, gee, in 1987, when they made a change, well, okay, the people in 1984, you know, that came in then probably felt that was a good logo and didn't really think that it needed to change. Looking at 2004, the people who came in the 2000 timeframe might have thought, well, that was a good logo. Why do you have to change it? But the 2004 people, now they become the 2010 and so on and so forth. In other words, we all identify with the logo that was there at the time that we came in, and we feel an affinity to that. And then we let go to change, and over time, you see this evolution. And I think that's a lot of change, a lot of change. So, okay. So now, okay, is everyone sitting down? All right, okay. Show that logo. Okay. Very different, very different. Stepping out there a little bit. Stepping out there a little bit. Show the next slide. So the logo is inspired by kind of that unique city feel. The idea that we have our towers. I mean, we are a vertical urban location. Multiple layers, vibrant colors represent, you know, kind of community building, diversity, and so on. Now, you may or may not see those things all in that logo, but that is how it was presented to us, and it was different things were presented with different kinds of logos. In other words, we'd see another logo and say, well, this logo is representing more of this, this, and this. So let's see some other. So here's where you see it on, you know, different kind of colored backgrounds. The logo is like a 10-year deal. You could see it in the past. We had some for 22 years, some 5 years, some for 8 years, but kind of a 10-year cycle is when you'll be doing some updating. Let's see some of the other next one. So now you look at us in here. I think that looks very different than the other slide with our old logo. Just by kind of reaction, what do people think? Is that a moan and groan, or is that there's a vibrancy here? What do you think? Okay, yeah. I hope so, because it you know, and like a lot of things, there was another one that was presented that I liked because I'm a linear thinker, and it was very linear. And then a board member said, it reminds me of Holiday Inn. And I thought, I need to get off of that. And I kind of just started to live with this a little bit and realized I think this represents a good next iteration. There's no such thing as a final iteration. This is the iteration for the next X number of years. And I think it looks great in comparison. I think it says a lot about our colors don't look like everybody else's colors. And it also says something about, you know, it's got a little more of a progressive look, in my opinion, than what we see on the screen from our competitors, and it stands out. Okay, next. So, you know, this is just a few slides, and we can kind of run through these fairly quickly. We're going to show, and we do show, our people in our communications because we want that authenticity. We want the reality of what you see in anything we present is going to be what you experience and what you feel when you come here. Okay, let's run through, just go ahead and click through those. There is what it looks like on that kind of a background. Looks like how it looks in some of the printed material. This copy is not actually correct, but you can see our colors a little bit differently here. And then this is how we kind of will look at it, you know, the mission, the vision, our values, and our logo. So we will be, over the course of the next several months, updating our information material, our signage outside, everywhere you see our logo, business cards, name tags, whatever, with this new look. And hopefully it's something that resonates with you. And if not, hopefully it's something that will resonate with you. Okay.
You said we didn't use models.
I know. See, our people are models, right? Right? They're the best models. They're the best models. Okay, that's where we are on that. And let's see, I think that was all through those slides. And now I'm moving into the announcement section. Okay. So a couple of things I wanted to mention before kind of going into the formal announcements. Christy and I visited, by the way, we obviously have run over time, so I'm sorry, but we had a lot of stuff to present. Hopefully you can last a little longer here. We visited the Murano. How many people in the room have been to the Murano? Okay, fair number. So what I experienced when I went there is it seems like a hotel. It seems like a hotel. There are real high back chairs that reminded me of like the Mad Hatter, and I was waiting for a Disney character to like leap out from behind one of the chairs. 240 units. They have 2 elevators. Okay, 240. We have our challenges with 100 units in the North Tower and 2 elevators. Their apartment sizes are 560 square feet to I think 15 or 1600. The monthly fee is between $5,300 a month to $20,000. The amenities, they said the amenities though, to $20,000 a month. A month. But you'd say, hey, for that, you're going to get a lot, right? Yeah. What you're going to get is 1 meal a day, and you're going to get car service to the opera or to the whatever the event is. And you'll get valet parking. Yes, they've got, a game table, and yes, they have a salon, but they can't get anyone to run the salon because they can't find the staffing, so that's not open. I'm not trying to diss them. I'm just saying it is different. Am I dissing them? Okay. Well, I'm making constructive comparison. That's how I'll characterize it. We had lunch there, and they said, hey, this is restaurant quality food, not to be mistaken with food service at a senior living community. And I got to tell you, the meal was fine. We do just as well on our meals. Now, maybe I wasn't there for the perfect dinner or whatever, but the lunch menu was like, okay, it was fine. It was all right. It wasn't too special. Pricing, was about the same as ours, so nothing spectacular there. The features of the rooms, of the apartments, the materials don't change from the lowest level apartment to the highest. So in other words, if you're in the penthouse, you have the same finishes, same cabinets, same appliances, same flooring as you have at the lowest level. The only thing that changes is square footage, where you are in the height of the building, and then also in the size, the square footage. So I thought it was interesting. They are 40% occupied. They've been open for 3 years. It's a tough sell, and I'm not surprised. Okay, on to the formal announcements. Okay, so please do the check out at the reception if you're planning to be away, so that we don't have to worry about where you might be. It's not that we don't want people to leave. We just want you to let us know that you go, so that that motion detector doesn't trigger a call and or visit to your apartment. 24/7 nurse triage is always available. It always will be available. That's a hallmark of our community in contrast to others. So, use it when you need it. In terms of bright spots, I think that the board meeting was hopefully something that you felt was a good bright spot. There will be continued engagement with the board periodically. These are people who do want to know you, want to understand your points of view. We can all agree to disagree, and there are times when we can agree to agree. All right, let's see. The Friday, March 25th will be our next March. Can you believe it? It snowed at my house day before yesterday, and we're talking about March. So March 25th at 10 o'clock will be our next fireside chat. Hopefully this has been helpful, informative. Remember, next week we're going to start having the first of 75 meetings with individual residents in the West Wing and west-facing Central Tower. That will take all the way through May to have those scheduled. I invite you, when we get it posted, to go read the strategic plan in the library and make your notes. We will have conversation about that at the quarterly small group sessions and help people better understand what we're doing and why, so that we take the mystery out of it. Our goal here is to make sure that we are doing the best we can for residents most directly affected and keep people informed along the way. So thank you all for being here.